I see there's just, the numbers are still going up. People are coming in, but we're gonna get going. And I hope everyone's having a good day or will have a good day. There we go. I accidentally muted myself. There we go. So our topic today for this Knowledge Day session is Introduction to Alma Analytics. And so it is just that, an introduction. It is that kind of first taste. Ray just mentioned that we are offering our analytics masterclass later this fall. I believe it's an 8-part series. I think that's the number. So this is that just intro, kind of understand the lay of the land, how Alma Analytics works, and then that helps you really get in like up to your elbows in stuff, those sessions. So what I want to mention, or where I want to start, is actually, let me hop out of there, let me get into Alma. There's just a few slides. I think there's like 3 or 4 slides in this presentation. There's not a lot. And let me bump up the size of my screen here because I know some people are working on laptops. You know, they don't have a nice big screen here. What I want to mention, it's something you always want to keep in mind about analytics. You know, when we're working in Alma or any system, this is nothing new. When you're working in a system and you search in that system, what you have in there is to the minute, to the second, you know, it's up to date. Now, Alma Analytics, remember, is yesterday's data. So if you look, if you're in your Alma environment and you click on Analytics, you will see at the bottom of that menu, data available as of, and then a data updated as of. So the data is pulled every night off of out of your Alma environment, and it goes through what we call the ETL process, and that is extract, transform, and load. So data exported nightly from Alma, and it goes into the tool Alma Analytics is using. It's called Oracle Analytics Server, or OAS. So that's the platform where we put your data. And then I mentioned the ETL process, extract, transform, and load. And then you'll see the time and date stamps, that the time and date the data was pulled, and then when it was made available. Something to keep in mind about this is if you are scheduling reports to run and be sent to folks in your library, in your institution, schedule them for the morning, don't schedule them for the night. You know, have them run at 6 or 7 in the morning, not at 10 at night. If you run them at 10 at night, the data is going to be 2 days old versus in the morning, it'll just be yesterday's data. So that is a key thing to remember. There we go. I also want to mention that we do have 2 different roles. You know, Alma goes through changes. You know, we have releases every month, and we used to just have 1 role for analytics, and now there are 2. So we got feedback from our customers, and they said, you know, we want this broken down a little bit more. And gosh, I forget how many years ago this changed, but it did change. So we have 1 role that's called Designs Analytics. And what that does is that gives access to Alma Analytics, Oracle Analytics Server, from the Alma environment. So that allows you to go under the Alma menu, and you'll see an option for Designs Analytics. And then there's a second role called Alma Analytics Administrator. And so that is where someone that could create widgets, someone that could schedule a job to be run, and or have someone like assign it to someone so it gets delivered to them. So those are the 2 roles. And when you give someone the Designs Analytics role, they get everything. We cannot, you know, say, oh, they only get to see, you know, the data for the part of Alma they work in. When you get into Alma Analytics, you get access to everything. Finance, circulation, whatever the data is in there, I can access with that role. Okay, so let's take a look. And I also like to give another warning because I had this happen this morning. So I closed the window hoping, I don't know if I'm going to get it to replicate. But if I come in here under the Alma menu and I click on Analytics, here's the option for Analytics, Designs Analytics. And if I click on that, if you ever see like this login, you shouldn't have this problem because Oracle should be taking your credentials from Alma and opening it up. So it did happen. So if that happens, just go ahead and close that window and try it again. You should not be entering your credentials into Oracle. It should take it right from Alma, and this is the behavior you should see. So it's just a matter of close the tab and access it again, and then you are good. So now we're in here, and I want to talk a little bit about this very first page is called my dashboard. And I have never customized this in this environment, but if you have some favorite reports, you could add them right here to this dashboard. And when you log in, you will see those different analyses. That's if you like. Now, if I want to look at up here in the top right part of the screen, you're going to see some items. So home just brings us to Oracle Analytics Home, this home page. Catalog is where we're going to be spending a lot of time. We're going to be looking at, that'll show us the architecture of our own reports and also reports available from the community as well. We're going to spend a lot of time in there. If I click on catalog, what I want to show you is, if I come in here, you will have one thing called My Folders. And so My Folders, these would be reports that only I can see that are coming from my credentials in Alma. So again, it's like a private folder. Maybe I'm working on some analyses and I'm not really ready to share them with my colleagues yet. So while they're in that state, I'm going to have them in the My folder. You also see a folder here called Shared Folders, and I'm going to expand that out. And you'll see a handful of folders, and then you'll also, one folder will have your institution's name. I am in a training database that we have in our environment here. That's the environment I'm working in. The Alma folder, the one that's called Alma, those are the reports that we as Ex Libris create, write, and make available to you. So that is one of the quote unquote out of the box reports, and you could always go there, look for something, copy it, edit it further instead of having to write something from scratch. So that's the Alma folder. You will also notice if you keep an eye on, if you read release notes, and sometimes there might be a message in the release notes about, oh, we wrote a new report, based on some functionality. It's in the Alma folder under, e-inventory. It'll talk about this path reports, whatever. But this is where we're talking about. In analytics, under shared folders, under the Alma folder. Now the community folder, every single institution in here also gets their own folder out here. So I go under community, I go under reports, I go under institutions. And so every library, every Alma library has their own report in here. And so if you are writing reports and want to share them so that other people can borrow your report structure, that is where you would load them into your folder. Likewise, you can borrow a report from someone else and again, use their report structure and see your data in it. Even though you're using someone else's report, you never see their data. You always see your data. If you post a report or borrow a report, really all you're doing is sharing the report structure so that someone else doesn't have to write it from scratch.
Jenny, is there any way to zoom in on this screen, or is this as big as it can
Let me
get?
see. Oh, I thought, okay, thank you. I'm glad you said something. Is that better? I thought when I made that change in Chrome, it would do it for all the tabs, but I guess not.
Thank you.
One more time. Is that too big? Let me try that.
That's good.
I'm glad you said something there. Yeah, I thought that was a global change, but I guess it's just on the each per tab. Okay. So that is so these folders, so that's the community folder. If you are part of a consortia, there are consortia folders in here as well, because I recognize some names in the crowd. And so these might be helpful at that level, as opposed to the individual institution folders if you're looking for something. There we go. So if we come down a little bit further, and then you will have the folder that is related to your institution. So so that is for my colleagues and I to share in this, in our environment. So if I am writing a report and everyone should have access to it, I would save it here under this folder that has my institution's name. And then when my colleagues come into our Alma environment and go into design analytics, they can see it too. Okay, I'm making sure, double checking that I'm not skipping anything. Okay. Now, if you do see a report out in the community area, or someone else is looking at yours, I wanted to show you how easy it is. Let's say I've looked at this report and I knew, oh my gosh, this is one I want already. I know I've already checked it, whatever it is. If I want to copy this, I could do a right click. Hold on. I usually use this little feature up here. So I just highlight the report out and I'm in the community folder and I do a copy. And then I decide where I want it to be pasted. Maybe I just want it in my folders, and I could come in here, I could do a paste, or I could use that little icon up here to paste. And now I've got this report here. If I expand this, actually, I actually copied over a whole folder and the report in it. And then I could always open the report and now run it. And I could make further changes, but I just wanted to quickly show the copy and paste functionality that's part of OAS, Oracle Analytics Server, to move that information from a shared folder into your personal folder. Okay. Another thing I wanted to mention is Alma's timeout is an hour. I'm sorry, analytics timeout is an hour, but also Alma's timeout, we've maxed it out at an hour as well. So if Alma were to time out, your analytics session would also close and time out and close. So you do want to get into the habit, whether if you're really getting into analytics, maybe set a timer, every 45 minutes, I'm going to go over, jump back into Alma, run a search, something to make sure that there's activity over here, so that if you're working in analytics and you haven't saved, you don't lose all that data. So something to keep in mind about timing out. We do also have documentation for Alma Analytics as well. Remember, all of our documentation, there's a couple ways to get there. You can go under the Knowledge Center, or sometimes you'll see it count in the Knowledge Center. You'll also see it shortened to the CKC for Customer Knowledge Center. And if I come in here to product documentation, and I could also just search in Google. Here's Alma in different languages, show all topics. So you can navigate this way. And here's analytics. So that's one way to get there. And I believe this shows the breadcrumbs here. Home, Alma, product doc, Alma online help with the language, and then analytics. Okay, I'm going to get out of there. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a look here at some of the out-of-the-box analyses. And I'm going to go into shared folders. I'm going to go into the Alma folder. I'm going to go into acquisitions and expand that out, reports. And now that I've expanded the folder all the way down, you'll see here are my reports over here. And what I want to look at is this one called expenditure per classifications. Now I can click open or I can click edit. And I tend in my work to click edit instead of open. It saves me a click down the road, but I'll show you. If I click open, I'm just going to get the results. Boom, here's my results. How have I been spending my money per classifications over the years? So here's the data. If I want to go in and edit this, I would just click on edit. And it's going to bring me into the editor, but I'm on the results tab. So if I would have just clicked edit instead of open, it would have brought me right here and I see that same thing. So it's just a personal preference, how you get used to navigating around in the system. And I can still expand the classifications down here and see how this is broken down. So there's a couple of reasons I really like to show this report or this analysis. And if I go to criteria, I can see how this report was written. It's actually a very simple report with all that data because Alma's doing some work for you behind the scenes. And what I want to talk about are specifically these icons. So under fund transactions, we see expenditure, and you'll see it's a little ruler, and that's called a measure. Pop this open here. Here we go. So there were only 3 elements in this analysis. One of them is a measure, and you'll see it by the little ruler. And what a measure means is Alma's doing something for you behind the scenes. So it's doing that calculation to get that expenditure. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to get fancy with SQL or anything like that. The second icon for transaction date, that is just data as is. And so that is the little icon you see here. It's like a little Rubik's Cube that's not very complex here. And it's an attribute. And then the third icon for LC classifications, that is a hierarchy. And so you'll see that little stair step icon. And that's how, again, we didn't have to do all that work to break down the LC classifications. We could just add that whole element and it shows. So those are the 3 icons you'll see in Oracle Analytics Server: the measure, the attribute, and the hierarchy as regards to the data. So down here are filters. And so what do these filters mean? It says only the very first one, transaction amount greater than 1. Only, don't give me zeros. Make sure that whatever the transaction is greater than 1 of whatever my local currency is. Fiscal period description is prompted. That's another one that says only show me the years if there's data. Transaction type is equal to expenditure. So we're looking at, we want money that's actually spent, not encumbered. So we're looking at invoice lines essentially. Library name is prompted, again, if there's no data for a particular library. If you have an Alma institution with multiple libraries, this is limiting out any, again, libraries that don't have data. And then substring, it's saying, show me the first 20 characters. That is of those LC classification names. So those are the filters. And I could say, you know what, maybe I don't want, and you saw when I looked at my results, I have everything for like 20 years in here, back to 2000. And let's say I don't want that much data. Maybe I only want like from 2016 on. I don't need this older stuff. I would just want to look at more recent. So what I would do is I would take this filter, fiscal period description, instead of being is prompted, I'm going to edit it. So I'm going to click on that little pencil there. And I'm going to change this from is prompted greater, and I'm going to change it to is greater than equal to, and I can put in a value. So I'll put 2016. You also actually, instead of typing, what you actually want to do, you want to use the drop down because of that formatting, because we're actually looking at the fiscal year. So I hand keyed it in and I remembered, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to use that drop down. Because that's my fiscal year name. My fiscal year name is FY 2016, not just 2016. So if I do that, and I don't even hit save, I'm not even hitting save yet. Here are my results. Okay, it knocked it down to 2016. Now, if I try to say, like, this is the save analysis button here, and to the right is save as. Because this report is in the Alma folder, or if I were pulling this out of a different a different Alma institution shared folder, I don't have the ability to save this in that location. I would need to save it to my institution. So if I do a quick save as, I could save it in my folders, or I could go ahead and save it in my institution. So reports, I'm going to put it in this reports folder. Expenditure per classification 2016 to present. There we go. So I've just edited that report out of the box, and then I saved it to my own folder. And I did save it to my shared folder. So if someone else were to log into my environment, they could see this, see the results, etc. Okay, let's go tidy this up a little bit more because I want to show you some other features in Oracle. So if I look at these results, I can see, I'm pretty sure this is money, but maybe I want some currency icons. Maybe I want to get down to the penny, and I want to see, down, not just whole dollars, but down to dollars and cents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my expenditure and I'm going to choose column properties. So I clicked on this little cog and I'm going to column properties and I'm going to go to data format. And right now this is just showing as a number, but I'm going to change it to currency. Okay. So I want currency. Do I want a currency symbol? I don't have to use one. Do I want the decimal places to change? Absolutely, I do. So if I want the currency symbol, I can add it. Click OK. Come back here to the results. Now we see the dollar sign. Now we see down to the penny. So we've just made that change. And that was just by changing the data format of that single element. Since I like this better, I'm going to go ahead and just do a cancel. Okay, save as. Yep, okay, there we go. I was still looking at that old one because I didn't re-navigate to where I saved the report. So that's why that happened. Now I just overwrote it. So if I come back here to catalog, I go to my training reports, expenditure per classification, 2016 to present. If I edit this, Here it is, what I just did. Okay. Let's go ahead and now we're going to move to a different example, and we're going to look at a physical inventory example. So I'm going to go back to catalog. I'm going to go into the Alma folder. I'm going to go down to, I want inventory, go down here, inventory, expand that down, and I want to get into the reports and show those. So I'm looking for item count by library and location. Holding item count by library and location. Now, instead of clicking open, I'm just going to hit edit. I'm going to save myself that click because I know I'm going to be editing this. I get my results. Here they are. And I can just go back and toggle between the criteria tab and the results tab. Now, when I look at this, I can see that some of my data, I don't have a library name or a location name associated with it. Remember, I'm in one of our kind of testing training databases, so my data isn't always nice and pretty. Just remember that. As I scroll down here a little bit more, I can see this is broken down by library. So graduate, law, main, and then the locations within, and then the numbers. Now, just like any reporting, writing any sort of report, look at these results critically, because Alma or any system will give you an answer, but is it the right answer? Did you ask the question correctly? So let's go look at this criteria. Look at that very critically every time. I can see here's my library name, my location name, and then just item count. And the library and location name is coming out of the location. And remember, in Alma, that the location is stored in the holdings record, that 852, subfields B and C. And then physical item details, that is where the item count is coming from. And Alma already has that measure done in place, so I didn't have to force a count. Life cycle is active. Remember, bib, holdings, items, etc., those types of records have a life cycle option, and it's either deleted or active. So active is something that is in your environment today. Library name is prompted. Again, if there's a library name, show it to me. Location name is prompted. That's also showing to me. Now, I don't know. So we had data. Okay. So we had data, even if, there was no library name or location name, we still had the data, and we didn't tell it to knock that out. But we see that information. Okay. So again, look at your data critically. Let's say you're going to do a little bit of work in your environment. Maybe you're going to be looking at your reference collections across the board. You have multiple libraries and you want to dig out your reference collections. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the criteria and we're going to change this filter. Location name again is prompted. So I'm going to edit this. Instead of this being is prompted, I'm going to say contains any. Oh, not contains all, contains any. And we're looking for a particular word. And the word we are looking for is reference. So if we change that, location name has the word reference in it. So we have now pulled out the reference collection in each library. Okay. Okay, so we've got that done. Now we can say we've trimmed our analysis down where we want it. This is exactly what we want. But now maybe we want more information about these items, these titles, etc., that we have here in our results. So we're going to go back to criteria and we're going to add some different data elements. We want to maybe get titles, locations. Well, we already have locations. Maybe we want call numbers. So there's a couple of ways you could do this. I can come down here to bibliographic details because I know where's a title in bib details. So I'm going to go down to the bib record. I'm going to scroll down to title. It's quite a bit of scrolling, but I can, double click it. I could drag it over however I want to do it. Another option, instead of kind of hunting and pecking and scrolling, a feature that came in Oracle, I don't know, in the past few years. Look, you can do a search. So instead of having to toggle and look, I know I want barcode. I know it's called barcode. I want call number. And so I put call number in and I kept it intentionally kind of vague because there's a lot of different call numbers. There's temporary display, display temporary call number, item call number type, etc. I want the permanent call number. I want the one coming out of the holding record. Where does this item live permanently? So now that we have this, if I go look at my results, I see here's my library name, my location name. I probably don't need this column anymore because now I've taken this really away from an item count report into something else. So let's go back to the criteria. I can get rid of this just by clicking on the little cog and click delete. Here we go. And now, so I've gotten rid of that. I can see my barcode. I can see my permanent call number. Maybe I could even take out library name, whatever you want. You would then determine, even though we started with that information, maybe we don't need it anymore. Another thing we can do is we could also use this to sort library name, sort ascending. And then I could say permanent call number. Maybe that's my, oh, no, I don't want to do that one. Hold on. Sort ascending. And then we want a secondary sort to the permanent call number. So over here, sort, I want to do add ascending sort. That'll make it the secondary one. So Alma will first sort by library name, and then it'll come over here to permanent call number. I'm going to get this location name out of here just because we know they're all referenced and I don't want all that shown. There we go. And you'll see the number 1 and the number 2 telling you that permanent call number will now be that secondary sort. Remember, I could also move things around. Maybe I want the call number way over here. There we go. So first we're sorting on library name. Now we're sorting on permanent call number. So we've made a number of changes to this analysis. Again, if I wish to save it, and maybe I'm going to put this, I'm going to rename it reference items with call and barcode. There we go. And I want to save this in my training folder under reports. Boom. So now I've taken another out of the box report. I have copied it. One more caveat I always like to give about reports is if you do borrow a report and you get no hits, because that's going to happen. The first thing you want to do then is look at the filters and maybe remove the filters, because think about what if it's like a ledger report or a fiscal year report, and you call your fiscal year, they call it FY 2016, like in this environment, but you call yours FY, 16 instead of putting the 20 in front of it. So that's why and if you borrow that record structure, that filter will have their fiscal year name in it. So come down here, so you see a report, you open it up in your analytics, you are going to see, you're going to get no hits. Come down here immediately, go to the criteria tab, come down here and knock out these filters by clicking XXX. And then you'll see that data, and then you can reapply the filters with your fiscal name, with your library name, with your item types, whatever they are. Okay, we are at 11:35. I see a lot of, I'm seeing a lot of chatter in the chat. Let me keep going through this, and if there's time, and I do see Dominic's answering questions there. The next thing I want to move into is creating a brand new analysis. So we're going to create an analysis. We want to know the count of users by user group in Alma. So what I'm going to do is up here under this menu, I'm going to go to create, and I'm going to create a new analysis. Now, when I look at this, these are different subject areas. And this list of subject areas has also grown over the life of Alma. We have completely revamped certain areas, like the cost per use. We've totally redone how we did that. You might see areas for products you might not have subscriptions to. That's just fine. Sometimes we are building out entirely new areas. So if you ever see something unfamiliar in here, and until it's ready to be used, it might say under construction in parentheses. And if you keep an eye on release notes, it won't surprise you when you do see something new up there. But just know that this does change as Alma is developed and features change and standards change, etc. So this is going to be a user account of users by group. So it's going to be using the user subject area. So you can see, here's my user subject area, and here are my elements. Okay. So what do we want to know about these users? Well, we probably want to know their user group. And again, I could do my hunting and pecking, but I'm going to go back to my favorite search. And I'm going to say, I know user group. Okay, I want user group. I don't want the code. I also want their ID. So I just typed in ID because I knew ID was somewhere in there. I don't want the external. I don't want identifier. This is the one I want. I want user ID. So I've pulled in the user group and the user ID. And so let's go take a look at what this looks like. Just from my history, I tend to add a few elements. I used to work with Voyager, so I tend to add a few elements and go check it, and then add a few more and go check it. It's just kind of how I was trained to do it. So I can see user groups. Now, some of these don't have a user group, and then I can see the user IDs, the barcodes, essentially, right? So I've got my data that I want, but I want a count. I don't want a list. So what are we going to do? And Alma doesn't have a count. Remember how we had those counts, those nice little measures? We don't have one for this, but we can make it happen very easily. Under user ID, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say edit formula. And what I'm going to do is click on the little function button. So if I hover over this, insert function, and we're going to change this from a list. We're going to go under aggregate, and we want a count. So we're making essentially a measure, but we just have to do the work ourselves because this wasn't built in. And I click OK. So we turned it into a measure by inserting that function. Not hard. So here we go. What do we see? We see 21 user IDs don't have a user group, and then we see the rest of them broken down. So we're pretty happy with that. Let's say, but if I look at this, I don't love this header. So I want this to look a little prettier. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to the criteria tab. And I'm going to come in here and go back to that column properties. And I'm going to go to the column format. And I don't like what they did. So I'm going to do a custom headings. And I'm just going to say count. There we go. So it's going to say user group and count. We're good. Let's go take a look at the results. So all we did was change the header there. That's what I want it to look like. So let's go ahead and save this. So I'm going to do a save analysis. And where do I want to save this? I want to save this out in my institution folder under reports. And I'm going to say count of users by group. Okay. So now I've just written a report from scratch. If I come in here to catalog, I go into my institution folder, reports. Here's my report here, count of users by group. So I've made it here in Alma. But what I really want to do is show you now how to not only, you're going to have to get familiar and get making these reports, but how do you expose them to your users? So what we're going to do is we're going to go back over here to Alma, and we are going to create a widget. Remember widgets. If I come into Alma and you see this little, yep, I'm still at 125%. You see this little circle with a plus sign in it. These are the widgets. And out of the box, you don't have a lot of them. But as you create different analyses, you can turn them into widgets and then make them available to your users. So let's go in here under the analytics menu. I'm going to go under analytics objects list. So this is where we can make a new report or make a new dashboard, make a new widget, make a few different things. And going into this part of Alma, that is that second, and I'm forgetting what it's called right now. The analytics administrator role is what allows me to go in here. Okay, so if you come into analytics, boom, and you don't see this, then you don't have the analytics administrator role. So we want to add a new analytics object, and I'm seeing that up here in the top right. Someone just said, do I need a specific user role to create widgets? Just this, the analytics user role. I think I'd have to look a little further. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to make a new Alma analytics object. And what are we going to do? We are going to, let's just use that report I just made. Count of users by group. Yeah, I'll put the whole name. So I'm just putting, what do I want my widget to be called? What analytic folder should I be using? Well, I really want to use, so I'm scrolling down wherever your institution name is. I'm in the reports folder. And then I'm looking for count of users by group. And I don't want this to be a dashboard. I want it to be a widget. I don't want it to be scheduled. Do you see how you could schedule things too? The beauty of Alma Analytics. We're going to change this to widget. I don't have to put a description up there, but I could. You can't leave roles blank. If you do create widgets, you do have the power to say, so maybe you have to have at least this role to be able to see this widget. Some of this might have sensitive information, about funding, et cetera, and you don't want everyone and their brother to see that. So you could limit it down, but it's all based on roles. So count of users by group, that's not particularly sensitive. So if it's not particularly sensitive, you could have, let's see, I could say, I want circ operator, circ limited, you know, so anyone that works in circ can see that. And maybe I could give it to other just basic, you know, kind of lower level people across the way, across the board here. So I just picked some. Oh, here's acquisition. So, you know, I could go ahead and give some there. Maybe I could also, I could choose whatever roles should be able to see this widget. So done. I go ahead and hit save. So someone said, can you just give access to every user? You know what I don't know? Could you add, is role patron edit? You want to choose a low level role. And let me see, I don't know if patron is available on this list. Add role. Let me do a quick. So lowest level, if you say a patron can see it, remember the patron role only gives you access into Primo. It doesn't give you access into Alma, but every single user in your Alma universe should have a patron role. So that would be the lowest common denominator to just give it to everyone. Save. So now I've created this widget. I'm happy. Let me come back into here. I can go to my widgets and count of users by user group. Also, you see how I just did this? I didn't have to log out of Alma. I didn't have to come back in. Check my little box. Here's my report. I can move this around. And remember, these widgets, this is tied to my user up here. So I'm not doing this for anyone else, the widgets here. I can create them, make them available. Ooh, I did have a question. And do these stats include user records that have been purged, deleted? Let me go in here, count of users by group, because I don't have that answer, and I'm kind of glad you asked that. What I'm going to do, life. Nope. It's people that are really in your database. Now, I didn't say what if they're expired or not. So deleted, no. Expiry date. So if you want only active, but not, you know, people that have been expired, you might want to add another filter here about the expiry date. It has to be, you know, in the past. That was a good question. I did not add that filter, but you absolutely could. But deleted, no, they're gone. Does the data update on its own? Yes. Tonight, the data will be pulled from Alma, uploaded to Oracle Analytics Server. Every time you come into Analytics and run the report, it runs it right now. I saw another comment come in. Will the reporting codes be added for acquisitions module? In May, we went from 3 to 5 different reporting codes on PO lines. And I believe in the release notes, they're going to be added to analytics in June. I know it's on our radar. And so it might be hitting Sunday. Sunday. Oh, okay. How did I change that formula to the measure again? Okay. That's a good one too, because that's a good little trick, isn't it? So what I did, my element here, I went to the little icon and I said edit formula. I went to this little gear, I went edit formula, and I clicked this insert function button. I'll just do it again. And under functions, I want aggregate and I want count. This isn't an Alma trick. This is a Oracle Analytics. You know, we're not in Alma anymore. We're in Oracle Analytics. So that's what that did. Now I'm going to hit cancel because I don't know if that like did it double. And I don't want to do it. So hit the gear, hit edit formula, hit the function under aggregate. There's a one for count. So I'm going to hit cancel there. That's a good trick. We still have 9 minutes left, which is good. I love it. I love it. Dominic, are there any particular things now? I can't, like, I didn't keep an eye on the chat the whole time. I don't know if there are any other things that I should really hit on. Oh, another thing, because I've seen some people about what if there isn't a piece of data in the in analytics. Not everything from Alma is in analytics. That's another thing you have to be aware of. So what you need to, so if something isn't here and you think, oh, that would be really helpful, add it to the idea exchange. Come in here to Alma. You know, always search first, but you could, you know, add whatever element it is to Alma Analytics and give a reason why. It's always helpful to have a good business case, a good use case, not just because, but you want to think like a developer, right? Think. But if you notice something isn't in analytics and you want it in there, add it to the idea exchange. Can I search by a particular marked field? I don't think they're written in those numbers. But like it would be under title, and a title might index more than one. It might also index the 245 and series title, etc. So so if you see a marked field that's not in there, again, if you think so, you know, if you verify that something's not in there, put it in the idea exchange. You could always double check, open up a case with support if you can't figure it out. Because where is that? And I don't know what's the best way to know the exact Alma or mark field an analytics column is pulling from. I'd have to look at the doc for that. But that's a good one for me to look up. Mark fields. Thanks for that. I can't answer that off the top of my head without doing some more homework on it. I'm gonna look, see if it's figured out. I got a question. In analytics of user groups that I just ran, it's showing a category of user we no longer have, but it's saying we have over 6,000 users in there, but they have been deleted. Is that because it was deleted rather than purged? I'd have to dig in and see that, but apparently if it's still in Alma Analytics, the data's still in there. Oh, someone just said, oh, thanks, Dominic. Dominic just put the link about the subject areas with Alma Analytics. Yes, ticket that one if you're still seeing information that was definitely not just purged last night, but a little bit older. Okay. Yeah, open up a case and we'll be able to help you out. Thanks for finding that. Ooh, I want to grab that link too. Maybe we'll add that to the presentation. I like that link. Here we go. Very helpful. Thank you. Thank you. But there might be a table out there for that one. And Dominic did put that in the chat as well. Maybe I'll find a few gems like that and put it in the PowerPoint. So it's 4 minutes till the top of the hour.
While we let any other questions come in, I'm just quickly going to remind everybody that the recording of this presentation and all of the presentations that are part of the Knowledge Days series can be found at this link. As Jenny mentioned earlier, we are going to do an Alma Analytics Masterclass later this year. If you want to get updates on our ongoing training, you can sign up to get alerts right there in that link. So please do sign up if you're interested in learning more about analytics when we do that really in-depth series. It's an 8-part series we'll be doing later this year.
Oh, someone asked about the difference between count and count distinct, and that's an Oracle thing. And I think the count distinct would take out duplicates of the same, like count versus count distinct. That's like a programming thing. Count, have a value, count distinct. Yeah, instead of that, let's get out of it. AS. Returns the number of items in a group, and count distinct returns the number of unique and non-null. So that's an Oracle function, programming-y function county thing. But that's important to know. Definitely important to know. Thanks everyone for your time today. I really appreciate it. I hope this was helpful. And we'll see you again in other Knowledge Day sessions.
There is going to be a survey that pops up when you leave. We very much appreciate any of your feedback that you'd like to share with us, and we hope we'll see you at more of the Knowledge Days presentations. Thanks, Jenny, and thanks, Dominic, for all of your help today.
Thanks, Dominic. Thanks, Ray. Bye-bye.